I really did enjoy working on the project with young people. I haven't had a chance to put my marketing skills to use in a little while. I love the fact that the topic was of interest to young people. So I was really thrilled that the Macomb School District had decided that mental health or mental health project was something that they wanted to do. NAMI Mississippi is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It's the largest grassroots organization in the country, actually. So I work with and help develop a youth advocacy council. We're actually a leadership council. We have young people 14 to 26, and their whole focus and role is to normalize the conversation about mental health with other young people. So I think my favorite moments of the whole project is when we broke into groups, and each group was given these huge white sheets of paper, those big 3M sticky pads. And they all had to break up, and they started working on the concepts for each of their projects. They had to do some research, and watching them on their school issued computers, start looking into mental health related topics, looking for people that we all know who may be experiencing a mental health crisis, deciding which group or demographic that they wanted to work with. I was really excited to see, we had a lot of athletes in that class, watching football players actually become vulnerable in discussing some of the things that they had seen or things that they had experienced. And the fact that we look over athletes a lot because we assume that they're tough, but there were these aha moments with the groups in trying to work out the concepts and who they wanted to talk to. Watching them create, the creative process was so exciting. One of the young men, athlete in one of the groups, he said, I thought this was going to be boring. I thought I was going to hate this. This turned out really good. You know, the fact that he thought he was going to hate the project, but he really enjoyed, and he actually took a leadership role in completing their video and the information. So that was the best part for me. So one group wanted to just create posters, and they ended up creating like 6, 8 posters. And everything was about 988. And I really enjoyed watching them decide how they wanted that to look. They really got excited about the process of reaching their peers, that they felt like, oh, this would be great. Let's use this information. One I thought was really great was they had a poster of Google, like the Google page. And in this search, they put mental health and or 988. I can't remember which one, but just I love the fact that they were so methodical in the ones that they actually wanted to use. And once they created, and young people create really fast. I mean, I was surprised at how fast they could pull their graphics together and the concepts that they wanted. So once they did a couple of them, I was like, oh, that's great. You all have enough. And they were like, no, let's do this, let's do that. So deciding, you know, from 3 to 8 or however many was interesting because they got so excited. And I think there were multiple impacts for me. One was wanting to do the mental health project, but the other impact that I felt was really critical was the passion that they displayed once they got into the project, right? So it was a sense of pride that they were experiencing, and specifically with that group, a sense of accomplishment. So it wasn't just, we're going to do the mental health piece and this is going to be good, you know, we're going to benefit our community. But the fact that they took such pride in the process of putting out some really good information and good material, all the way down to the details of the color and the titles, and, you know, so that was really great. A group wanted to just focus on athletes, mainly because, like I stated, they felt like athletes were often overlooked, just because, particularly football players, male athletes, because there's the perception that they don't have issues or that they're a group that, because they're so tough, this topic would not be something that they would even admit to. But they ended up doing a video that they wanted to do with other athletes to share some information, but they also wanted to do an event. So the goal was to do all of the athletes in the school. We ended up doing, it was 70, 80. We ended up as a cap, but they wanted to talk to other athletes. And the impact to me in that is they saw the need based on what they felt they needed. And they wanted to share that and provide some information for other athletes. I mentioned being vulnerable. There were vulnerable moments. They were open to information. They were open to being expressive. And sometimes when you're talking about with young men, they're kind of guarded. So I think the impact with the project was that they wanted to reach others like them, but also the impact was being vulnerable, which is something that we don't see a lot in group settings in schools. So the vulnerability that kind of showed up in a form of just completion of that project, I thought was really good. Then we had a group that I really enjoyed because they really wanted to work with career and college readiness class. That was a big thing because in selecting their group, they said, these kids are getting ready to go and mental health has to be a priority. So let's do a paint, do a paint session, but we're going to talk about mental health. We're going to do a mental health presentation prior to our paint session. But I found it interesting that they would select the college and career readiness class, two of those classes to bring together to share some information. And we had talked earlier about 18 to 25-year-olds have the highest prevalence of a mental health condition. And I asked, why do you think that? And the answer was because life be lifing at that age. So I was like, okay, I agree. Life be lifing at that age. So more young people, the expectations of you're an adult now, and just, trying to make it. So they were really thoughtful in who they wanted to present their mental health project to. Actually, 2 weeks after the project, we actually collaborated, NAMI did, with the Macomb School District. I had received a call from, twice we've collaborated with them. I received a call from the district, the superintendent, asking if we would be willing to sponsor some mental health t-shirts because they had another mental health event. I think what has happened from our perspective is we're a resource for them now. So there were 2 other smaller community-based events that came from just our relationship and contact through this project. The fact that young men can be vulnerable, that was the big thing, that young men really can be vulnerable, but we have to give them the space to be vulnerable in. Have to provide a non-judgmental space and a conversation that allow them to say what they need to say without feeling like they're going to get in trouble, say what they need to say without them feeling like there has to be a correct and proper way to say it. Sometimes the way they say things may be slightly a language that we're not quite, in our business, we're not quite accustomed to hearing. But you don't have to have a lot of degrees, to be able to convey some information. And I think that part of it it sticks out. Like 2-3 sessions, they had become really comfortable with me. So they were just talking to me like they were talking to, their bro, I think with young people, when they say, hey, bro, you've made it.
It's a term of endearment for sure.
I I was broke by the time it was over. So that was good.